Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. This is Success with Srini.
Welcome back. Happy Sunday morning to you. On the podcast today, I'm not answering a question. Not a question from a listener of this podcast or a listener of my radio show. I have about 14 more questions to answer. I have a lot of questions, seriously speaking. But I was looking for a window where I could kind of take some time and speak something that I have on my mind that I think will bring some value to you, into your life. And I was looking for that window. It so happens that today, a Sunday, I thought I'll do this. But I respect your questions. I get pleasure from your questions in the sense that I'm being put to work. I do the research if I don't know the answer, and I take absolute immense pride in responding to you. And every time I create an answer podcast here, I know deep within my heart that it's going to help you. That's the conviction I have. Today's podcast is a rant and also a story in the form of a rant. You know, I am notorious when talking about public speaking and all the challenges I had and I continue to have as a speaker. English is not my first language, and I never really went to a school that really taught me English through the first 10 years of my schooling. And English was my third or fourth language. And everything that I speak and the way I speak has a lot to do with years and years and years of living in America and traveling the world and all that. So this is a hard learned language. It's very difficult. It's a whole different story when you are speaking to people in a day-to-day normal conversation. When you are on a public platform, on radio, on a podcast, and on YouTube and all these places, it's very difficult. Because I don't know, sometimes I mess up my words, my phrases and all that, and sometimes I lose my thought, my intent. It's very hard. So recently, just a few days ago, I talked about my vocabulary base. Last year also on this podcast, I talked about my vocabulary base and the number of words I have, and I said 7 to 800 words, maybe at the most now. Back then, maybe 100, 200, 300. And in contrast, my children who are just entering into high school, in that age range, they have 30,000 words in their vocabulary. So they can articulate, they can present, they can speak, they can convey things much more faster, and they're very eloquent in what they do and how they do as compared to me. And I knew this from the beginning. So how can we overcome this? And there are chances that you might be going through this also. And there is no harm in acknowledging the fact that, we have a deficiency and what can be done to overcome this. So here, today on this podcast, I want to share with you 10 words that completely changed my life. And these are the words that I use every single day, as much as I can. But these 10 words, if I go back and look into all the presentations I've done, this podcast, radio shows, workshops, seminars, consultations, even at work, when I used to work, all the words that I have used, these 10 words, extensively I have used. And I continue to use these words. And I'm going to give you these words because if you bring in these words into your vocabulary and your speech and your day-to-day, daily speaking, I know your life's going to change. And you can't put any monetary value on this. I could, because I'm in the space, but there's no monetary value. Don't worry about it. We are only talking about intrinsic value, and that's all I want you to see. You're going to become a good speaker. You will speak constructively, and you will speak with impact and influence. That's what you need, by the way, and all of us need that. So why speak constructively? Because majority of the people in their day-to-day conversations speak destructively. I listen to people, I talk to people, and I see the patterns through which they speak. And most of the times it's destructive. destructive because unknowingly they say words or they use phrases where they come across as if they're criticizing the speaker. They think that criticizing the content or a topic that the speaker is, the other individual is saying, but then the way they respond, they end up criticizing the speaker, who, by the way, is not at fault, but they do. And sometimes, depending upon what the conversation is, there are certain words they say that leads to some confrontation. And that's not the way it should be. So why you want to confront somebody with words? And you don't mean that anyway to begin with. So why would you? And sometimes I've seen people make extreme statements, like using words like, it's always like this, or it can never be like that. You see, the world doesn't operate like that. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Can't be, always, can't be never, somewhere in the middle. I've seen this, and at the end, the outcome is the entire conversation, whether it's for an hour or 2 or 5 minutes, whatever it is, ends up being non-constructive, destructive. What should we do? We should be energizing the listener. We should be putting positivity into the listener. We should be, as we speak, we use the words, we are supporting them, we are caring for them, we're creating the comfort, we're creating the trust, we're creating that an atmosphere where the other individual has to feel that they are secure. That's how we should operate. But we don't. And it's not difficult. It doesn't take a lot to do the change if you are going through it. So these are the 10 words that changed in my life. Okay? And there were some more words, but then these are the only 10 words lately I use. The first word is amazing. If you go back and listen to 2 or 3 prior podcast episodes, you'll see me using the word amazing a lot. This word I use at least 20 times a day. Whether I'm writing or I'm speaking 20 times a day. And maybe today's podcast is the only place where I did not use the word amazing in a way that sounds as a part of the narrative. This is only today's exception, but on the podcast, but I frequent myself with this word. Number 1 is amazing. Number 2 is incredible. Number 3 is remarkable. Number 4, outstanding. Number 5, extraordinary. Number 6, spectacular. Number 7, wonderful. Number 8, marvelous. Number 9, incredible. Number 10, phenomenal. I used to do a success tip for 3 minutes on the radio for about 6 years, every day in the morning. And I used to end that success tip by using the word phenomenal. You have a phenomenal day, something like that I used to say. People used to tell me later on, they heard that success tip so many times, repeatedly, over the years. Every time they used to see me, they would end up saying, every time we hear the word phenomenal, you come to our mind. Because we have heard you say this so many times. At my seminars, people have told me this. So, these are the 10 words. I repeat myself in every conversation as much as possible, and so that it's seamless. It has to be seamless, not like you keep on dropping these words everywhere, but seamless. Now, when you use these words, you have to mean it, right? Otherwise, they don't create impact. So, overall, it keeps my mind state in sync, and it gives me, allows me to create the care and comfort in the listener's mind, and gives me a leverage also as I'm doing this. Now, there are 2 other things I also do, and this is for you if you know me, within close quarters, and we met or we have spoken to each other, and, we have some kind of a prior working relationship. I use a statement. So this is a friend of mine calling, somebody who, I speak to maybe once every 6 months, 8 months, in a maybe professional friend, and I've used this all the time. Somebody calls me, I go like this, right? Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only, and then I use the name, whoever is calling. Let's say John is calling. I say, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only John, right? And then I go into the call. I completely change the temperature of the conversation. John would be calling in feeling sad, little bit depressed, little bit off, little bit all that. And it's possible that John might be in a very bad state calling me, right? But I completely change the entire entire conversation, and I now set the frame to move forward from here. That's the idea behind this. And it also makes them feel good. Okay. The second line I use in conversations is, "Hey, big man," something like that. Like in every "Hey, big man," something, right? Depending on my leverage, how much leverage I have with that individual. I use these two lines, in a funny way, but then sets the frame. Yeah, so these are the words. 10 words that changed my life, continue to change my life. And these are the two lines that I use in every time I meet people, just kind of make them feel good about who they are and, pump them up. And so that I get to hear good things from them, whatever time I'm spending with them. That's all. Hopefully, this is helpful, because this is something that, every time you record a podcast like this, where you have to come up and share something from your own side, sometimes it's very hard for me to assess whether this is really creating any impact. Is it of any help? I have no idea. So you have to let me know. So listening to this on YouTube, maybe listening to this on the podcasting app, wherever you are listening to this, there should be a place for you to write a comment, rate the podcast, and all that. So please do that. And I'll be back with my questions, hopefully as early as tomorrow, depending upon what happens between now and tomorrow. Maybe I'll get another idea or something like that. Then I'll come back with one more rant. But that's all for now. You be safe, and I'll be talking to you. Bye now.